All right, so good afternoon, everyone. I'm Miles Glancy. I'm General Manager of Philharmonia Baroque Orchestra and Chorale. I'd like to welcome all of you, our 2020 virtual members, to our next installment of Up on the Downbeat, Embodying the Squiggles with dancer Jen Meller and PBO violinist and Director of Education Lisa Grodin. Before we begin, I'd like to let everyone know, if they haven't already noticed, that we're using the standard Zoom platform for this event, which is a bit different from the Zoom webinar platform that we use most often for our virtual events. So just like with Zoom webinar, your microphone's disabled right now, but you do have the option to share your video if you'd like, so that Jen and Lisa can see your fantastic faces and maybe even your dance work during this event. Because you'll theoretically have more little faces taking up your screen than with a webinar, you'll probably want to know how to control your view settings throughout the event. We've gone ahead and spotlit Jen and Lisa, so it should probably work for you. But if you're using a computer, you can go up to the top right-hand corner of your screen. It should say view, and here you'll want to be in speaker mode for the most optimal experience, which highlights the person currently talking or playing. If you have any issues, you can feel free to use the chat feature. I'll be behind the scenes as well as Naren Larson, or you can email info@philharmonia.org. If you'd like to ask questions to our panelists at any time, you can use the chat feature. We'll try to get to all of your questions at the end of the program. Now, I must remind you that with any live stream event, we may experience some connectivity issues and sound or video blips. And if that does happen, we thank you for your patience and we apologize in advance. A final note that this event is being recorded. You should have received a disclaimer upon entry, and rest assured that the recording is only capturing Jen and Lisa and whatever Jen's sharing on her screen. Now I'd like to introduce PBO's Director of Education, Lisa Grodin, and have fun, everyone.
Thank you very much, Miles Glancy, and welcome to all of you. I'm so excited to bring you this program today with Jen Meller, who, as many of you know, is the Artistic Director for Dance Through Time. And I'm here with my Baroque violin and bow and my Mastiff snoring in the background. Jen has collaborated with Philharmonia in so many events, from school programs to community center events. So I'm just so excited that she's willing to curate this event, and we've had a great time putting these programs together. Jen is known for bringing together large and diverse numbers of audience members up on their feet in character with the music. And I hope that you won't be afraid to join us and show us your video if you feel comfortable doing that. Up on the Downbeat is tailored to our PBO audience, and we are exploring the multifaceted connections between music and dance. And so huge thanks again to Jen, and let's get started.
Okay, we have a lot of stuff to cover today, including dancing. So I'm going to ask that if you have any questions, which I imagine will come up, just go ahead and put them in the chat and we'll try to address them all at the end of the session. So I'm going to start with a little presentation. And so I'm going to share my screen and make sure that it's sharing the correct. Is it correct?
It is.
All right. Okay. So, so thanks to PBO for recognizing how important Baroque dance is to the music and historically informed performance practice. And thanks to all of you for joining us and giving us your valuable time. This is the second of 4 sessions that we've planned for this series. The others are listed here. We had September 24th, the 18th century dance lesson. And then we have Baroque flute, Stephen Schultz for the Dancing with the Passions will be joining us, and William Skeen on viola da gamba will be joining us for the Intrigue and Drama one. And then the sessions are recorded and put up on the website. So I will share, for those of you who are here from my students, I'll share the links with you if you want to go back and see them again. Today's focus is going to be on a dance notation system that was most widely used in Europe during the 18th century that we call Beauchamp Feuillet notation. And to put that in context, I'm going to start by looking at some of the the ways dances were recorded before this particular notation system came into being around the year 1700. A note about historically informed performance practice and why Philharmonia Baroque Orchestra and Chorale practices this. And part of that means looking at original notations of the music, reading musical treatises, books, or manuscripts on the musical practices of the Baroque era. And so the same thing with the dancing. I practice historically informed performance of the dance. And part of that means looking at the notation like we're going to do here. So starting in the 15th century, we have evidence in the form of dance books and manuscripts of various attempts being made at recording popular dances. The earliest one dates from about 1425, and you're looking at that here on the left. This is attributed to an Italian dancing master named Domenico, and this is one page from that manuscript. So you can see here it contains the music that goes along with the dance. And then this is just a description of the dance steps, just written in paragraph form. It kind of goes like, you know, the man, usually for a couple, the man takes 2 steps to the left, the woman takes 2 steps after him, and then they continue with a couple of steps forward and backwards. It's very much like telling a story. On the right is one image that comes from a treatise attributed to Guglielmo de Breo, or William the Hebrew, we call him, Jewish dancing master. This is one image that appears in his book. I love it because you can see possibly, I think they're singing. You can see that the man and 2 women are all stepping on the same foot. And then we have, you know, the harpist there. Here's another example from a book called L'Art et Instruction de Bien Danser, printed by Michel Toulouse. So in here we have the notation of the music, and then these abbreviations for the steps. Like this R here is a riverenza, or a bow. And then we have the brawl step, or doubles, represented by the D's here. Just right above the music, describing the dance in this way. So pretty basic. So as we move towards the turn of the century, there are 2 dancing masters whose books stand out, Caruso and Negri, and their published books are dating around 1581 to 1604. These books use a similar method as the previous ones, with the addition of these lovely illustrative plates, which we all love so much. So like the previous books, the name of the dance, part of the dance, and then we have instructions for the steps, the music that goes along with it. And now we also have some illustrations showing things like how you should stand when you begin the dance. These books also will give you instructions on comportment, even discussing how the men should wrap their capes when they dance around them so they don't get tangled up in their swords when they dance, things like that. Here on the left is from one of Caruso's books, and this is where we see, this is the first graphical representation perhaps of a dance formation. It's a dance for 6 called Contrapasso Nuovo. And if you've ever been to a Renaissance fair, you may have actually seen this dance performed. It's popular among the Ren Fair people. And other dances from the Caruso and Negri books are often performed at the Renaissance fair, danced by players who are reenacting life at the court of Elizabeth I. Here's some more lovely illustrations from this book. And side note, I found some of the most prolific reconstructors of dances from the Renaissance period to be from those people related to the Renaissance fairs and other reenactment societies. So a lot of these people you see at Ren fairs are not just people who like to dress up in fancy costumes. They're serious historians who've done their research and put a lot of effort into presenting an historically informed performance for you as you walk around eating your giant turkey legs. So when we can all go out again, it'd be nice to go meet up at a Renaissance fair for some dancing. So around the same time, another interesting book of dances from France called Orchesography, authored by a man named Arbeau, is published around 1589. This dance notation is a little bit more helpful, I think. He turns the staff of music on its side and then places the step names directly next to the notes upon which you should enact them. That's what's happening here on the left. A step in the air on the right, a step in the air on the left, all here corresponding directly to the note. And on the left here, he also includes some drawings. These drawings are not for this particular dance. These drawings are for a dance called Les Bouffons. And there's lots of great versions of this dance on YouTube. And I'll share some links at the end of this and other interesting sources and stuff. Now we're skipping ahead about 100 years to about 1685. And this system, which is attributed to a man named André Lorrain, who was sent to England by Louis XIV to study country dancing craze that was happening in England at the time. Lorrain came back to France with a bunch of new dances, and he shared this in his style of notation that you can see here on the left. Here you can see we have the music that goes with the dance, and then below the music are little abbreviations for the steps that you would take on these particular notes. And then he also includes this nice graphical illustration showing where the dancers go on the floor while you're doing those steps. Oops. Here's another example of the Lorrain notation, which I do not know how to read, but I know that this is the music. And then here are, again, abbreviations for the steps. And then he's creating these, again, these figures. So at this point, we're looking down on the room, on the floor, on the dance floor from above. And these figures, these little notes here are for the dancers. This is 4 dancers, and you can see that in diagonal, these two are connecting. And here we have the woman and the man connecting here, going around each other. Da, da, da. So it was, this is the book. It was Louis XIV, King of France, and his desire for France to be setting the highest bar in all things pertaining to taste, beauty, and refinement, who we credit as being responsible for codifying the rules of the dance once and for all. Many of these rules are still followed in dancing today, Western dancing today. The story goes that King Louis requested his dancing master, Pierre Beauchamp, create a notation system to go along with these rules. And in the year 1700, which you can tell if you've been keeping up with your Roman numeral reading, this book was published by Monsieur Feuillet, which describes in detail how to read and write this notation system. Thus, we call this Beauchamp-Feuillet notation. In my opinion, though the notation has its limitations, it is the most successful dance notation ever created. A big part of this is the fact that once you learn it, you can eventually be able to read it the way a musician can read music notation. Of course, if you're sight reading the dance while you're dancing it, you have to hold the notation in your hand, which limits your ability to use your upper body. But since there's rarely any indications in the notation for what to do with the hands, it's possible to sight read this dance notation. So we can see here in these example pages from this book, Choreography, that early on in the book, he starts to describe the room and how to notate the facings of the dancer. So this being the room, and this being a representation of the dancer, where the curved line represents the back of the body, or I like to think of it as the butt. And then the straight line here represents the front of the body, the straight front. So here you can see the dancers facing up towards the top of the room, back towards the bottom of the room, to the right or to the left. On the right here, we have indications of the foot positions. These are the 5 foot positions that we still use in dancing today. And you can see that we have the indication of the dancer here, and then the feet are represented by this little circle, which you can think of as being the heel, and then this little line, which you can think of as being representing the rest of the foot. So here you're standing with your heels together and your toes apart. Here you put them a little bit further apart. Here one is in front of the other, 3rd position, a little separated, and then 5th position, totally crossed. So we are very grateful to this book because it holds the key to deciphering the over 350 Beauchamp Feuillet notations of Baroque dances that have been recovered so far. Often the dancers are published as part of a collection of dances, such as this one on the right, on the left, a collection of ball dances performed at court. And here on the right is one of my favorites called The Favorite, a chaconne dance by Her Majesty. The notation is beautiful too. Here the writing, we actually know who wrote down these characters, who's John Weaver, who wrote many books on dancing and also produced an early pantomime ballet called The Loves of Mars and Venus, which we'll talk about a little bit later. We have many choreographies by this Mr. Isaac. We also have many choreographies by this Mr. Labbé, Anthony Labbé. But usually or rarely credit is given to the hand that notated the dance. But in this case, it's Mr. Pemberton. So you can see already a different style of notation. But I do like, this is one of the more beautiful title pages of a dance that I've seen. We have more notations attributed to Pécour than any other choreographer. Pécour is responsible for some of the most famous dances of the time, including this Allemande, which is the only notation that we have of an Allemande dance. And it's unique in that it includes illustrations of dancers showing the arm positions that the dancers take during the dance. And this is another one, a new dance made for Her Majesty's birthday, which I think might be Queen Anne of England at the time. Finally, I think it's amusing that some of the least polished looking notations are attributed to Monsieur Feuillet. This is a mess to me. It's not pleasant to read, but these are great dances. These, this Gigue and this Folie d'Espagne by Feuillet. But I think you can see that they're kind of messy. So there are basically two kinds of dances that we have in the Beauchamp Feuillet system. The kind we've been looking at, which are like the one on the left, that has a lot of squiggles, and the kind made for contra dancing or country dancing on the right, with significantly less squiggle action. But I hope you can see that there are some similarities. We have the position of the dancers. In this case, the women are indicated by a double line, the men by a single one, and we see that they're lined up. And we see that the first man, first lady here doing something, and we have the music at the top. So we're going to start by looking at this solo minuet from 1725, performed by Mrs. Saint-Lô, choreographed by Anthony Labbé. Hester Saint-Lô was both a great dancer and a great actress in her time, also skilled in pantomime, and she played the role of Venus in The Loves of Mars and Venus that I mentioned earlier. The portrait on the left is her playing the part of the female harlequin, who dancing master John Essex writes that that was her harlequin is beyond description, he said. He also says that she far excels all that went before her and must be the just subject of imitation to all that dare to attempt to copy after her. Dance historian Maura Goff wrote a whole book about her called The Incomparable Mrs. Saint-Lô, and I'll share a link to that later. But let's break this notation down into its digestible parts. At the top, obviously, we have the music. And let's invite Lisa to say a few words about this music.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. So you can see that there's a treble line only at the top. And in the tradition of the time, the dance master usually played the violin. Oftentimes the dance master made up the music as well, but there might have been scenarios where a larger ensemble would have played at court or in the theater. But if you're instructing someone and you're the dance master and you want them to really know what to clue into when they're listening to the music, you would naturally choose the melody line in the treble. So it makes a lot of sense that we almost always see just a melody line at the top of the choreography. In person, dancers and musicians can really just be in touch with one another. They can watch every nuance. So when I see Jen hopping, I can hop in my articulation. If she does a quick step, I can make my articulation quick. Zooming is a little more challenging that way, but we've had a lot of fun rehearsing these things, and we're going to still try and stay in touch. And I hope you can too. Try some of these things in your own space. You might notice in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sixth bar where the eighth notes are, the ones that have a little line, there are 4 notes that have a little line going down. Those would have been swung, sort of in the same way that jazz is swung, dee 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 dee, a gentle swing, a gentle lilt to make it pleasurable and beautiful sounding. That's called inégal, unequal.
Are you done? Oh, and yeah, Lisa does a great example of inégal that we'll hear in both the dances we're going to do today. So moving on to just deciphering this a little bit, we see that we have this dance is for a woman, and she starts facing the audience. Where the music is where the audience would be. Here we see the position of the feet at the start of the dance. And then next we have the figure or the pathway that the dance takes around the room as if we're looking down on the floor from above. And just like in the music notation, there are bar lines on the pathway. These correspond to the bar lines in the music notation above. So one of the first things that I do when looking at a notation is count the bars and make sure that they match. And we see here that the bar lines do match, but lo, there is a repeat sign here in the music. So how can this be? Well, this is a minuet. And in the dance of the minuet, each minuet step actually takes up 2 bars of music. So when you're dancing the minuet as a dancer, you feel the music in a 2-bar phrase. So notations of minuet dances, most of them will have half as many dance bars as music bars. And I think it's something, again, that connects the music with the dance, and that Baroque musicians usually find interesting to know that that's how the dancer would feel a minuet in this 2-bar cadence. So now that we've got our measures straight, we'll look at the squiggles or the steps. Whoa, let's break this down. So you already know that the symbol on the left is a foot. The circle representing the heel and the line is the foot, the length of the foot, right? So I think of this as coming over here, and the heel becomes this little pinhead, and then the foot still represented by this slash. And this curved line in the middle shows the pathway of the step. So in this case, we're looking at a single step forward with the right foot. So on this step pathway is where we put the ornaments to the step. In this case, the small little diagonal line represents a bend. So you would bend before you take the step. This line that's perpendicular on the pathway represents a rise. So this step begins with a little bend, and we rise up to take that first step. So let's see what he does with these ornaments on this first bar. So we see there's a bend and a rise on the first step, a bend and a rise on the second step, a plain step, and then another bend and rise on the last step. 4 steps in this dancer's bar. This rise sign being in the middle of the step just indicates that we do the rise a little bit sooner than when we actually take the step. And that looks like a little leap. And I will demonstrate so you'll see. And then the last thing is this little curve here, which indicates that we're going to take a quarter of a turn to the right before we take that first step, which makes sense, I think, because you can see that the figure is tracing a circle around the floor to the right. So now that you've had this crash course, maybe looking at this notation makes a little bit more sense. These 4 steps in the bar repeat for the next 6 dancing bars, as you can see. We create a full circle around the room. Then we do a single step to the right, a single step to the left, a full turn, which is called a pirouette. And then we're doing a little zigzag, angling back a bit, first to the right and then to the left. And it's the same 4-step pattern, except that these are going sideways. to the sideways to the right, sideways to the left. And finally, these steps at the end are like little hops. All these perpendicular lines, remember how one meant a rise? Well, when you have many, it's a hop or a leap. One last thing, we're coming around, curving around and coming back to face where we started the dance in the end. So what I'd like to do is demonstrate this first page or first plate of the dance that we lovingly call Mrs. Santlow's Minuet. And I'll start with my back to you so that you can hopefully see the way the curve goes around and how I trace the figure on the floor. Let's stop the share. Okay, ready? Let me make sure that I've got my, so you can see me when I start here. Okay. I'm going to mute myself. So let's take a tempo like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 1, 2, 3, kind of like that. So I hope that was sort of clear. Thank you. It's strange to be sitting and then get up and dance, but I'm going to go back to my share real quick. And when Lisa and I were looking at this notation and decided to use this for today, the first thing Lisa noticed was page 3. She texted me furiously, "What is even happening? What is going on?" So I was like, well, I guess we have to take a look at this page. So I think I would love this notation because I think it indicates, informs us into that. I think the notation of the dance probably came first, and then whoever wrote this probably realized there wasn't quite enough room for the music up here. And then they also happened to like forget a bar, so we had to stick that in over there. But using the same system that we were before, looking at this, each one of these squiggles, separate squiggles, represents a step, and all these other little things are simply the ornaments that go along with the step. It could be sliding or fallings or little leaps and such. So I am going to attempt to demonstrate this page with Lisa. This time I'll face you as the audience, and you'll see that it comes all the way down, then going back again diagonally to the side, and ending with this 3/4 turn that I'm going to turn into a full turn so I can end facing you. Okay, so I'll stop the share. Okay. Similar tempo is going to be fine. And this is a really fun dance. I actually have only learned these 2 pages so far, but now I think I need to learn the whole thing. Let me go back to sharing my screen. So remember the contradance notation by André Lorrain. Well, Feuillet, or Beauchamp Feuillet system, they created a special system for notating the contradancing as well. So it's much easier to read than Lorrain's, in my opinion. And we have many delightful contradances in this notation. Some are adaptations of the English country dances, and others seem to be original to the French that were inspired by what the English were doing. So we are going to do one of these dances right now, this one called La Jalousie, which I totally spelled wrong in my notes, and that's why I'm so just looking really quickly at this before we get up to do the dance. We have the music up here, and we're facing our partners, which today we're just going to face each other in the screen. And we don't have squiggles. The steps are actually described in another part of the book. And they say it's just customary to do gavotte steps and pas de bourrée steps. So I will teach you these 2 different steps that we'll use in this dance. So these little, they look like arrows, but they more, it was better to think of them as feet, because if I'm looking at the woman here, I am going forward, and they also represent bars. So for 1 bar forward to stop, and then 2 bars, 3 bars, 4 bars, I'm basically going forward and back. And if my partner is going forward and back also, we're sort of meeting at right shoulders here. And then we do the same thing, meeting at left shoulders. And then we have, we call this a do-si-do today, but we are going forward and then crossing our partner, right? And going back to back with our partner here, and then coming back to our place. And then this also, like the other dance, is unique in that it includes some hand gestures and clapping. So these little, I call these Fisher-Price hands, they indicate hands. And when we have lines going in between them, that means we're clapping. And then we have these little dots coming off of them, that means we're pointing and wagging our finger. So we're going to do some clapping and pointing and wagging. And then when you have 2 hands like this indicated along a pathway, that means that you take hands with your partner, which we won't be able to do today, but we can imagine. So that is that. So let's get up and take a look at this dance, and then I'll come back and do my conclusion. I can figure out how to stop this share. Okay. Okay, here we go.
Jen, while we're getting and dancing and all getting ready, could I say a couple of things about the music?
Oh, yes, please. Yes.
Just a little thing. That jalousie means jealousy. And when this collection of 1706 English country dances was introduced at court, there would have been a lot of jalousie going on. And and there are these little notes at the beginning, these little quarter notes that go. So they're kind of, I'm playing them kind of pithy and a little bit mean. And so this is not like the minuet that was gracious and sort of elegant. This is kind of, as Jen said, lots of clapping and probably stomping and finger wagging. And some of these dances were created in the sort of French manner. And so you can see a very French sort of vibe about this one.
Cool. Okay. So let's just do a little shakeout for a second here, right? And take a moment to just come into our space and let the cares of the day just go away, and give yourself permission to have fun and relax and be just focused on this dance just for the next like 5 or 10 minutes. So just coming in, taking a moment to just take a look around the room, to open our eyes, take them away from the screen, and just come into our bodies. Maybe give a little bit self-massage, a little bit twisting around, and that will be the extent of our warm up today. So let's start with the pas de bourrée step. When we're in duple time here, is that correct? Yes. Dun, 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 dun. I'm taking 3 steps. It's 1, 2, 3, a 1, 2, 3, a 1, 2. So let's all try that. 1, 2, 3, a 1, 2, 3. Now, remember the bend and rise that was in the notation before? Well, we like to put that ornament. That's a common ornament in our step. So that means that we want to rise on that first step. So that means that step would look like 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, bend, rise, 2, 3, bend, rise, 2, 3, bend, rise, 2, 3, rise, 2, 3. Okay. So in this dance, we're going to use this step to do our do-si-do. So I will mirror you. We'll be starting with the right foot, and I'll mirror you. I'll start with my left while I teach this. So it's going to be 1 pas de bourrée up, sort of going in the, going in the right direction. Pas de bourrée up. And then we're going to do a pas de bourrée to the side while we back to back with our partner. So pas de bourrée side, pas de bourrée back, and then little jump to come together into place. Actually, I prefer to go across like this with pas de bourrée, and then we cross side back, and then pas de bourrée, and then back. But it's up to you. And across side back, pas de bourrée, and leap together. So that's when we come to the do-si-do. For the other part, just going forward and back, it says it's customary to use gavotte steps. And this goes really well with this dance because there is a little 2-note pickup. And that corresponds great with the beginning of the gavotte step, which is just a step before the downbeat. So 1, 2, and then we swing the other leg and hop on it, hop, and then take 2 steps after that. And then again, another little, what we call an ensemble, leaping together. So together that is, and how we'll do it is starting with the right foot. We'll step across ourselves because we're going to go to right shoulders with our partner, right? Across ourselves, the pick up, and then hop, step, step together. Together. And then the same thing going backwards. With the, I like to, it doesn't indicate which foot, but since our partner is here and we don't want to kick them, I'm going to take that pickup step with the inside foot so that my other leg that's hopping around doesn't kick my partner. So I'm going with the right foot towards the left, step, hop, step, step, and leap, and then backwards, step, hop, step, step, and leap. And then we do the same thing to the other side. The left foot crossing, step, hop, step, step, and together, step, hop, step, step, and together. If you do imagine your partner in the center, and just think you're always starting with the leg that's closest to your partner. And then we do our pas de bourrées around, right? We're starting with the right foot, crossing, with the right foot open, which is pas de bourrée. No, with the, sorry. Pas de bourrée, pas de bourrée, crossing, just like the other one, crossing ourselves to take that first step. Sorry, I'm reversing. Pas de bourrée, a front, side, back, pas de bourrée, and together. And then the last part is we do the 3 claps, 1, 2, 3, a wag, 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 a 1, 2, 3, a wag, wag, wag. And then we're going to take 2 pas de bourrée steps to come back to the end. So this is like we have like an extra couple of bars here. So we're going to take 1 step to the front with your right leg, and then we're going to go around ourselves with 2 pas de bourrée steps. Pas de bourrée, pas de bourrée, and then we're ready to start. Hop, step, step, and boop. So the rhythm is a little weird because we have these pickups. But why don't I just, I'll just dance it through, follow along as you can at a medium tempo, and we'll see how we'll do. We'll just go, maybe just let's do a couple of times through the thing to see how it goes. And I will put my back to you. How about that? I think that will be easier. Okay. All right, let's try it. Ready?
Here's a little intro.
Yes. Other side. Do, si, do. Pas de bourrée. And flag. Step. Pas de bourrée. Do again. Oops. So just for a second. Any particular questions, or we should just keep doing it? Yes. Sandy, did you have a question? Can you unmute yourself? Unmute. I unmute you.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Hi. When the main screen leaves you, I can't follow. But
oh goodness, let's unpin. Thank you very much.
It's great to see Lisa. The only thing is, if I'm just dancing and not playing.
Let's remove the spotlight from Lisa and the pin. Okay.
So
yes.
This that's all. I mean,
thank you. Okay.
I wish I could have thought of the steps at the same time.
Any other questions about the steps in particular? Or?
Lisa needs to dance and play simultaneously.
Yeah.
We'll get right on that, Sandy.
Virtuoso.
River dance. I love
okay. All right. Okay, let's do this, and this time, Lisa, no stopping.
Okay, so I'll give you the little intro, and then I'll just do a tape loop until
please.
You tell me to stop.
Yep. Great. Okay. Here we go.
Hold on.
With jealousy.
Jalousie. Yeah, okay. Let's pause for a moment and let's try it quite a bit faster so we can get that rowdy jumping going. So let's hear an example tempo. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, great.
You got it.
Okay, let's try that. Here we go. That was good. It's a little weird, right? So these gavottes are hard, and when we go to do the pas de bourrées, that's a trick. You have to wait for that pickup and come in on the downbeat for the pas de bourrée. So I'd like to do it one more time, and I'd like to face you. So I'll be like your partner opposite of you. You could do it, Sandy. Come on. Just one more time at that tempo. Just maybe just once through for fun.
Sure.
Okay. Thanks. Thank you. So going back to here, in conclusion, learning how to read this dance notation system gives us great insight into the elements about dance that people valued in the Baroque era, such as the figures and these certain types of steps. But the system raises many questions that we don't have definitive answers for. One is understanding the way dancers use their upper bodies and their arms. So there are some basic rules that are given in some of the dance manuals, and we can look at iconography, paintings, and even diagrams, but these give us actually conflicting answers depending on who you're reading. So toward the very end of the choreography book, we see that they developed a system for notating the arms, but I have actually only seen one notation that uses it. I'm not going to go too into depth, but this indicates here the shoulder and the arm going out from here and then curving around, like we move them sort of like this. And here on the right is a notation that uses this arm, the arm notation with it, but you can see that it makes for an awful lot of squiggles. So we have to make creative decisions in our reconstructions. So we look as much at as much original source material from the period that we can, and not just about dance, but about history, philosophy, aesthetics, etc., to try to find the essence of what is Baroque. And then we use our informed instinct combined with what we do know to bring these notations to life, essentially embodying the squiggles. Thank you.
And thank you, Jen. Thank you so very much. I feel like we have embodied the squiggles today, and it's a good day.
So. We certainly did cram a lot into a short amount of time.
It's always a thrill to work with you, to brainstorm and to see a program like this just reach so many people in such a fabulous way. And it informs the music making so much. I was trying to dance with my violin back here, and I'm sure a lot of musicians really appreciate all of everything you have to say and tell us and teach us. And I wanted to thank Miles Glancy, and behind the scenes we often have Noren Larson and Leila Zakzuk. Thank you all, and thank you all for joining us.
So I do want to paste some links in the chat that I have that I think will be helpful. And then have some, take a look at if any questions. So I just want to say that Paige Whitley-Baugus has a great website called enviablybaroquedance.com. So that didn't become a link, but there it is, baroquedance.com in the chat. And actually, I think her husband has worked with Philharmonia Baroque Orchestra, so that's
Barry Baugus is a trumpet player. Yep.
And also she did a great reconstruction of the minuet, the full minuet. That was one of the first videos I saw of Baroque dance in my life that still inspires me to this day. So there's a link to that, a link to Maura Goff's blog, which is incredibly well written and very fun to read and useful if you're interested in more stuff about Baroque dance. And then I teach a class every Sunday. It's actually part of the ODC senior program. So it is easy on your body and it's fun and for beginners. So there's a link to that. And then one of my first teachers, Philippa Waite, if you're interested in more notation stuff, made a great book on how to read the notation. And she is the master really of how to do it now. So a link to her site in case you're interested in more about that. And then the Dance Through Time website where you can reach me and see information about the class, and a YouTube video of the Bouffon, the dance with swords, a really fun reconstruction there. So I hope those are helpful and fun for you. I don't see it. Could you repeat, which is the symbol for the little jump? Alexandra, do you still need, do you still want an example of that? I can point it out here. I heard one dance historian call these the fuzzies. So when you have a step and it looks like there's some fuzzies.
Yes, I got the answer in the chat. Thank you.
Oh, good. Okay. Those are ones, just for anyone else who's looking, the ones that indie jump. A little leap. Nice, everyone. But do we have other questions?
I had a question, Jen.
Yes.
Are squiggles still being utilized in sort of, is there a modern dance equivalent of squiggles? Or is this just, you know, an artistic facet of just of early dance?
Yeah, that's so interesting. We do have modern notations for writing dance. The most popular one is called Laban notation. And it's very complicated. It's not possible to sight read it. But people have used it to record modern dance for posterity. But that's why I said I like the Feuillet notation the best, because it's the one that is just so directly, just so clear what's happening. Like you can look at it and really see, and it shows, well, that style of dancing that they were doing then, it was like a perfect meld of the style and the notation system coming together, where they lent themselves to each other very well, at least as far as what we know about the style so far, and that it used these types of steps, transferring weight and going along with the music. And that's so easy to represent. And the figures that the shapes you made in space were important. So these are easily sort of notated there. But the system is really genius, I think, in the way they put the ornaments on the steps. And it really does become very easy to read, just like reading music. If you read music, which I do poorly, but you know, it still is like you can look at it and know what's happening. So yeah, I've never seen anything else like it. Our movement today is so much more varied than they had this. Well, it was France, right? Making this codified system. We are the best and we will all dance this way, you know? Because at the same time in Spain, the Spanish had their own style very distinctly. And there are writings where Spanish dance masters speak about or write about, we must never lose our style, even though the French are coming, you know? So, I mean, there's a wonderful woman, Ana Yepes, who is teaching online classes right now. I'm taking with her castanets and everything. It's wonderful to see what this Spanish style was like at that same time. There's a little bit, it has similarities, but you know, has its own style. So there were other styles going on, but the French really kind of forced their way onto everyone at the time. Yeah, that's Ana Yepes' name. Oh, hey, Louise. Oh, you're muted.
I will unmute her. Here we go.
Oh, sorry. I misread the time.
Oh, Louise.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi.
Came to see you mostly.
It's great to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
Well, you can see the recording.
Yeah, that'll be
We'll
good.
share
Thank
the
you.
recording. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll see some of you possibly in class on Sunday, where I will announce what we'll be doing very soon, probably this afternoon. We'll take a look at something. And then I'm very excited for the next one, which is Dancing with the Passions. I've been doing a lot of research into affects and passions in the musical treatises and such. And so I'm excited for that one, to share all that I've learned about that with you guys. Yeah, so, oh, thanks. I guess.
All right, thanks. Please
can
join
wrap
us
it
for
up.
the next one.
Yeah, thanks everyone, and thanks so much to Jen and Lisa for another riveting program. And I too look forward to the next one. And thank you all for joining us and for your support. It's of course greatly appreciated. So, and it's wonderful to see your faces as well. So thanks for sharing your videos and your dance moves with us today.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, bye everyone.
Bye.